everyone. Thank you so much for being with us today. Welcome to a new session of Bizagi's Process Professor. My name is Kevin Guerrero, and I am really happy to be with you in a new session. Um, Today, we will be, or I will be covering a really interesting topic that we have in Bizagi. I will be covering something that it's how we can actually customize or extend forms functionality through one amazing feature that we have in our platform that are Bizagi widgets. As I was telling you, my name is Kevin Guerrero. I am currently the technical marketing manager here at Bizagi, and I am also well known for being the Bizagi's process professor. So if this is the first time that maybe you're joining one of our sessions, so let me explain you a little bit and really quickly how process professor works, what are the main objectives, and what you can expect from these sessions. So first of all, Bizagi's process professor, it's a program that we launched on 2021. This is the second year that we have already with Bizagi's process professor. And our main objective is that we can provide a free space for our customers, for partners, for prospects, and in general for anyone that is interested to learn a little bit more about process automation, digital transformation, creation of modern apps, and to understand or to just hear from me some important topics and some important information that we identify in the market. The idea of this program is that we are going to have a monthly execution of the Bizagi's Process Professor. These sessions are scheduled every second Thursday of the month. We have one session in English, one session in Spanish, and the idea is that you can just come here, have a really good time, learn and hear all about some amazing topics, and then go and practice in your own projects, right? In general, what I try to do is that every single session has the same structure. I try to follow this structure so you can know what to expect in every session and what to expect in every of the parts that I have of the session. So in general, I will always have three main parts. The first part is going to be where I will be talking about a general topic. It can be one a specific feature that we have in the product, one new version that we have released, maybe some best practices rolled up. And the idea is that you hear about this topic, what are maybe important highlights that you have to take into account. I try to always try studies or documents or the last things that are happening in the market and that has been identified not only by us, but maybe big analysts as Forrester or Gartner or IDC or anyone, right? So for you to have a general idea and a general perspective of everything that we have here. And then we just go always to what it will be a live demonstration, right? So my objective here is that I want to show you how everything that I talk in the first part of our session is being reflected or can be achieved using any of our products. And this live demonstration can actually be using the Bizagi modeler or using our Bizagi Studio or using the Bizagi automation or Bizagi apps or anything that we have in our platform to actually build our application. So I will show you always something in the product to highlight the most important things that we have in our products. And at the end, we will have always one last part that it will be of an open Q&A. Something really important about this Q&A section is that it doesn't have to be about the topic that we're covering in the session. What's the meaning of this? That if today, for example, we're just talking about how we can extend the functionality of Bizagi Forms through Bizagi widgets, it doesn't have to be, or all the questions that we have or that we try to resolve at the end doesn't have to be about just Bizagi widgets. If you have any other question about simulation or about connectors or about an integration with a web service or how to manage documents or whatever you have in your projects, you can ask at that part, and I will do, of course, do my best to answer all possible questions that you can have out there, right? So in general, this is the structure, this is the way on how I handle my sessions, and this is what you can expect over here. So once again, thank you so much, everyone, for being today with us. Relax, enjoy the session, and let's jump in directly with what I have prepared for you. So today, as I was telling you at the beginning, we will be covering one amazing topic, that is how we can customize and how we can extend forms functionalities through one feature that we have in our product that are Bizagi widgets, right? And my objective today is that you can understand the concept of Bizagi widget from a really important perspective, that is end user experience, right? How through Bizagi widgets we are able to improve end users experience and actually create much better forms within your Bizagi projects, right? We will be covering the 7 steps to create an app. Specifically, we will be talking about the step number 3, that is where we define our forms and is the place where we will be able to actually use our widgets. And then we will just go from the most basic concepts to maybe the most complex one. So we will start defining what is a widget, where can I use widgets, how to use existing widgets, and finally, what happens if what I need is to create a new widget from scratch. So we will go from the simplest ones to maybe a little bit more complicated at the end, right? So I want to start this discussion and this session focusing on something really important, that is end user experience. Probably all of you have heard about this concept in different scenarios, but I would like to start with some facts about end user experience. And I'm going to give you some important numbers because I want that you understand how important this is going to be for different companies around the world, right? And the main reason is that multiple studies around the world have identified that end users' experience are so relevant to the organization that if they are not handled correctly, they can get into a really big problem, and they can even have really bad impacts in sales, in customer retentions, and among others. And one of the big problems is that it's possible to see that actually end user experience are not as good as we were thinking, right? And that actually some of the users that we have in our applications are not happy at all. They are looking like this Batman, right? Not really happy, maybe more angry, not enjoying what he has to do every single day. And some of the most important numbers that we got over here are this one. So let's start with one important number, that it will be 74% of what? Of businesses say that user experience is vital for increasing sales. Actually, they say that if end user experience is not handled correctly, this can have a huge impact on the sales for organizations. The second number is the 54% of users that wants to see content that is personalized to their interests. So we are seeing every single day more and more that users don't just want to see the regular things, the default ones. They want to feel unique. They want to feel that what we are creating for them is special for them, and that also here in this side, the ones that are creating the applications, the ones that are creating the places where they work on a daily basis, we took the time to understand their requirements, their expectations, and try to create much better end user experience. And finally, we have a final number here, that is that the 45.9% of businesses will prioritize customer experience in the next 5 years. So what is the meaning of this? That at the end, this is not anymore like a second option or something that we will say one day, or something that it will be, I don't know, in our backlog, and maybe one day when we're free, we will just pay attention. No, this is at the top of the priorities of the organization, and they are seeing how important this is for them, right? So why all of this is so important? Because at the end, we need to keep in our minds, and now we need to put on the table user experience, end user experience, how we can improve end user experience, right? And one of the things that we will see here is that our main objective when we're creating our applications is we want to move users from current states where maybe they are not that happy, where maybe they are not enjoying their daily work, where maybe, I don't know, the information is presenting in some boring ways and maybe not as interactive or as dynamic as it could be. And we want to move them to this, to much happier users with more motivation, that feel more comfortable when they are adding or entering into our applications, and that they actually enjoy what they do on the daily basis, right? In Visagi, as part of our global strategy, we have defined that we want to provide to our customers this rapid value delivery. We understand how important it's today in current markets and the way on how the situation is worldwide to actually allow our customers to identify and to perceive rapid value delivery. How can we get really, really rapid value from the different processes that we're achieving? And that's why we offer this whole group of products that allow us to achieve the rapid value. So I have in the modular the option to discover and to define the different processes that we're working. We have a studio that is a place where we develop and automate and create these amazing applications. And finally, we have automation where we can deliver and we can control everything that we have here. If we want to provide really good end user experiences, we need to think about and we need to work hard in what it will be here, the develop step. It means in Bizagi Studio that it will be the place where we create the place or the application where our users will work. So in this Bizagi Studio, in this develop step, what we offer for our customers is 7 steps that they can use to create really quickly and simple applications and simple processes for what they want to achieve, right? Here, these 7 steps are really easy, really intuitive, really visual, and allow them to create applications with the use of low code, right? And specifically, one of the things that we want to see through the presentation is that in these 7 steps, we have one step that is the step number 3. The step number 3 has as a main objective to define the forms. And when we're talking about defining our forms, we're talking about how and which information we want to present to the end user. Here is where we will be thinking about that end user experience. How do we want to present the information? Which information must be presented? Which information must be captured from the user? And is the place where at the end we create our forms. Every single step of the process that has a user interaction must have its corresponding form, and based on that form is that we will design how the information is going to look like. So let's start with the basic. So we just saw how important end user experience are in the market based on different studies conducted by different organizations, Forbes, UX Planet, different organizations specialized in end user experience. We know that if we don't pay attention to this, it's critical, right, to do this one. And now we have on the other side that in our Bizagi application, you can use Bizagi Studio, the wizard view, complete 7 steps to create an app, and that there is one step that is the step number 3, where we can go directly and define and create our forms. But where widgets come into this game, right? What are going to be the kind of things that I will be able to do with the widgets, and why these are going to be something that are going to be so relevant and so important for us? So let's start with the basics. And the basic is, what's a widget, right? What it has actually, that element, that feature, that component that we can use when we're creating our projects. So let's define widgets in a really simple way. So every single time that you are creating a new application, you need to complete different steps, 7 steps in total. The step number 3 is where you are going to define the forms. What's the meaning of this? It's the place where you need to design which information will be displayed to the user, which of that information will be displayed as read-only, which of that information will be displayed as editable, which information must be completed as mandatory, right? And how we are going to display that information. Every single time that we're defining one of those forms, what we're using is something that in Bizagi is called controls. So it means that every time that I put, for example, something that says that I need to capture the information of the client, first name of the client, what I am using is a control that is a text file or text field, and that text field allow me to capture the name of the customer. Or if at some point I need to know what is the country of the customer, so I add another control that in that case will be a drop-down list, and it will show me all the available countries that I have to select. So all the information that I am using to build our forms is what it is called controls. So what are widgets? So widgets are controls, but are not regular controls, are specialized controls that has some predefined properties and that has as a main objective to satisfy one specific business requirement in a completely different way. So what is the meaning of this? That at the end, if you take into account, let's say that widgets are not fully mandatory in all projects, right? Actually, it's possible that maybe in one of your projects you have created or you have done a full implementation and maybe you have not used any widget at all. So it means that these are elements that are optional. But now that we understand from the beginning of this presentation how important it's the end user experience, we need to start considering a widget now as maybe something mandatory to improve that end widget experience. So we are saying widgets are specialized controls that will allow me to see the information in a much better way or in a much dynamic way. One of the great advantages of widgets is that they can be easily bound to any business model, so they are highly reusable. So what's the meaning of this? That if at some point you already identified that you want to display the information in a particular way, and you decide to include a widget or create a widget or use a widget at the end in one of in one of your projects where you are working, it's perfect because then if in another business situation, in another process that you are working, you want to use the widget, you can just use it right away. Reusability in widgets is really important, and it will allow us to actually go and have it in multiple processes. And finally, what we say is that widgets will allow us to define and develop controls that comply with a specific structure, so the UIs can actually be customized and functionality can be extended. So by default, every single time that you start working in a Bizagi project, we offer a set of pre-default widgets for you, right? Or pre-default, let's say, controls, right? Pre-default control, right? Like the text control, the date control, the currency control, the search control, or a suggest, right? All of them are out-of-the-box controls. Now, if you want to take your end-user experience to the next level, what we offer to you are widgets, because they can present information in a completely different way, understanding always the needs of that end user that is working in your applications, right? So this is the basic thing that are what are our widgets. Now, why to use it, right? Okay, so we understand what are the widgets. We understand that these are at the end specific controls or personalized controls, but why to use it? Which are the benefits that I am going to get if I use widgets? So the first one is that we can get directly and we can improve the engagement of our employees with a much better UI. Again, if our employees are able to perceive and are able to understand that us as developers or as the group of people that are creating their applications take into account their experience, right? We care about how they interact with the application, the engagement will be much better. This will increase the motivation, and probably this is going to increase even the performance and the numbers. Probably we will decrease errors, we will decrease time cycles. It will be much better because they will feel much comfortable, and even the way on how we display information through widget can simplify and can make much easier one of the tasks that they have to do multiple times in a single day. The second great benefit is that it will personalize the information for a better experience. So again, it is possible that me as a user in one part of the process, I want to see the information through a table, but maybe in another one, because of the type of work that I am doing, because of the place on the process where I am, maybe I want to personalize ways to visualize that information. And when I do that, I get much better attention of the users that are working in our application. The third great benefit is that they provide an agile creation and a really easy reusability. So as I was telling you, and we will see it later when we go into the demonstration, the creations and the use of widgets is pretty simple, right? If you want to use one of the out-of-the-box widgets, it's going to be simple, follow simple steps, clicks, and you will be done. And once that you get the widgets, then you can reuse them. Where? In many places, in many projects, in different business situations, according with the needs that you have. And finally, is that through widgets, you will have the opportunity to integrate existing plugins or JavaScript libraries. So we are even extending and expanding the possibilities of Bizagi through the widgets. Because now I can use maybe amazing plugins that I can identify or that I can find in the internet from JavaScript that shows beautiful data in a different way, and I can just use it in our project. So these are really amazing benefits, and maybe these are really good arguments for you to start thinking and considering that widgets are a really good option to start adding in your different projects. Now, where can I use widgets? So I was telling you before, in our wizard, the place where we can have our 7 steps to create an application, right? We have different steps. Every single step has one objective, but in particular, widgets are elements that can be used exclusively in the step number 3. That is where we define our forms. So we need to identify the form where each widget will be used, the data that is going to be required for that widget to work, and then complete basic configurations according to each widget, right? Now, how to use widgets, how we can go directly and start using different type of widgets, right? And the first thing that I want to start telling you is that by default, as an out-of-the-box feature, Bizagi offers multiple ready-to-use widgets. In the same way as I was telling you maybe 1 or 2 months ago when I was talking about Bizagi connectors, right? In Bizagi, we have made a huge effort to identify maybe the most common situations from our customers, the most common requirements, maybe business requirements that customers ask a lot and that we want to provide for them a different solution. And what we have done is that we have taken all that feedback, all those ideas, and we have created multiple ready-to-use widgets. These are widgets that are completely ready to use. You don't have to do any coding, any additional advanced configuration. The only thing that you have to do is identify which is the widget that best fit your business requirement, read the documentation that is available for the widget, download it, and then just add it directly into your project, right? We have more than 50 ready-to-use widgets, and all of them are ready for you to use. And we cover different business situations. We try to offer different type of widget for different situations. So do you want to display information in different charts? We have a whole section of charts widgets. Do you want to integrate with maybe some peripheral devices, right? Like a scanner, or maybe use your finger to do some signatures? We have a lot of options from that. Do you want to display in your forms maybe, I don't know, media like images or YouTube videos or maybe voice recognition? It's up to you. We will be able to offer all those options for you, right? Now, what happens if you look for the widget, you want to provide a much better and personalized experience for one of your users, but you cannot find the one that you are looking for, or the idea that you had in your mind is not there, it's not in the widget exchange. So it doesn't matter, because we even give you the power for you to create your own widgets, right? And we will see that we can start creating widgets from scratch. I do not recommend this one because it is much easier to start creating widgets with existing elements. I will show you that on the demo. But even if you want, you can start creating your widgets from scratch, right? We will be using one tool that is the Bizagi Widget Editor, that it's a web-based tool, and you can create and define all your widgets from them, right? And finally, right, if you decide to create your own widget, it is really important that you understand what are you doing here, right? Again, we just say at the beginning that the definition of a widget it is that it's just a control that we will be adding in a form that has a custom or a personalized experience or a personalized ways to visualize data. So if it is a control, it's something that is going to be displayed in the forms. So if we want to create a widget or customize even an existing one, we need to understand that every single widget will have the following structure. It will have always a JSON file with some basic information about the widget. The name, the category, basic data. Then it's going to have a JSON file with the internal definition of the widget, what this widget is going to require to execute. It's going to have always an icon, one image that Bizagi will use to just display when we add the widget into one of our projects. It will have, and this is something pretty amazing about the widgets, because we will be able to customize how the widget or how this control will be displayed independently in different devices. We will have three options: desktop, smartphones, or tablets. So the implementation of the widget that must be done in a JavaScript can be different from every single device. Or if you want, it can be the same. It's completely up to you. You have the power to decide how you want to display this widget in different devices. But for every single device, you have the option to have a different JavaScript execution. And in the same way, we can have, as a last element of the widget, a CSS file that at the end is where we're going to have the styles of our widget, the colors, the borders, the margins, whatever it makes the widget looks nice. And once again, you can have the same for all the different devices, or you can have even one file for every single device where you're executing your widget, right? So if you want to create your own widget, I will always suggest to follow these 4 simple steps. First one, always, and this is going to be something that I will repeat a lot during this session, search, look for existing resources. Try never to start from scratch. And this is not because you cannot start from scratch. You can, if you want, you can start completely from scratch. But it will be much easier if maybe you identify existing widgets, right? It is possible that the way on how you want to present information is not exactly as you have in your mind in one of the widgets, but you can use one of the widgets of the exchange as a starting point and then customize the behavior. So look if there is something similar available in one of the out-of-the-box widgets, and if not, if definitely is not that, widgets at the end are elements that are displayed or used to display information. And we were seeing that these elements allow us to extend functionality from plugins and existing libraries of JavaScript. So if there is not an existing widget with that, then go directly and look in the internet for existing plugins or JavaScript libraries, because then you can reuse it and you can save a lot of time over there. Once that you have this, the second step is go and create your widget. Define the name, define the category, define the type of the widget that you want to create. Now the third one is getting into the widget editor and complete the whole configuration. If you are able to find existing libraries or plugins, add it into the widget. Define the properties from where we are going to read the information for the widget to display the data, right? And then do any implementation in terms of the customization of the widget. Do you want to change the colors? Do you want to display messages? Whatever you want, customize it in the code that you got, right? And finally, test the widget. Before adding the widget to your Bizagi project, the widget editor gives you a really powerful option, and is that you can run and test how the widget is going to look like. And take into account something. You will be able not just to see a simple and a regular execution of the widget. You can see how the widget will be executed in a desktop, in a smartphone, in a tablet, and even under different scenarios, right? So I can change what information I will be using to see how the widget react to that. And that is what it will be. Multiple scenarios, so you can cover a full range of different tests before you actually add the widget to your project. Okay, so this is the way on how you can create your own widget. So now let's jump and let's go really quickly to do a demonstration and to show you how all of this looks like, but when we're working directly in our widget. So let me really quickly just change from one screen to the other one, and let me show you what kind of things we will be able to do. So the first thing that maybe I want to start highlighting in the demonstration and what we will be seeing here, it is why we need to start considering widgets now in our Bizagi projects. The first thing is that with simple changes over the way on how we work or over the way on how we create our forms, you will be able to see that simple details will change a lot the experience of the end users that we will be working in your processes, right? And I want to show you that with a really, really simple example, with a really simple way. And it's this one, right? Let's suppose that we can have, or we will be working in one single process or in a one single project that it can be this one. So let me just change here, right? So we can have one process, right? Normal, we will have the information and we will have one of the forms, getting the information, getting the data, and this can be any process where we're working, right? Take a look how the screen looks like in this moment, right? Simple, plain, groups, data that is being displayed, and that's it, right? However, if we decide to change that process to include something different or to include something additional here, we will be able to see how the experience can change and how one simple widget can actually change the perception of the end user. So take a look that now we have the same business situation, we have the same process, but here I have added one widget. One widget that will allow the end user to see exactly from one big process in each or where in that long process we are located right now, right? So this is going to give me the information to know that in this big process, I have, let's say, 4 different phases. One where I will be registering information, a second one where I will have a check from the OFAC, a third one where I am going to have a creation, and a fourth one where I am going to have a closure. Why this is so important? Because at the end, with this simple widget, I can just change from something that, yeah, I know that I'm working in a process. Yeah, I know that I can just go and see exactly the process diagram at any time when I want. But with a simple add of a widget, we will improve a lot the experience of the end user. That person will be able to see exactly where in the process we are located, and it doesn't have to do anything at all. It doesn't have to do any additional click. Just see the place and see the information that we gathered there, right? Simple, but at the same time, powerful. Now, let me show you another example where the use of widgets can be actually pretty important, right? And it is according to the place where we're in a process, right? It can happen that we need different ways to see information, right? Or to visualize information. One of the things that we will be able to see or that we will identify here, it is we have different cases, different information, different values, and it is possible that at one time of my process, I need or it will be required for me to register products, right? When I am registering some products, it makes a lot of sense to just go directly and say, hey, I am going just to offer a table. You can add as many products as you want, the term, and this information, it will be displayed for you with a simple table with values or with information that we gathered here, right? And this, or in this place, maybe it makes sense to have it like this, right? But it can happen that later, when I move into another step of the process, in this process where I am adding products, it will be required to do an analysis of the different product that has been requested. And when I get into that analysis step, maybe displaying the information in a simple table is not good enough, because maybe I want to visualize this from a different way. I need a graphic. I need to see what's happening. I need to see how many product has been requested, and I need to see from all the products, I don't know, which is the one that has much more importance. So when I identify these kind of requirements, we can say, okay, how can we customize that information? The first thing is to know that in our Bizagi Exchange, right, we have a whole section that allow me to see all the available widgets. Take a look at in this moment, we have 58 available widgets, and those 58 available widgets have a lot of information and a lot of options from us. Take a look at here, we're seeing information from different charge options. We can generate bar codes, we can add calendars, we can have credit card validators. So all of them are available for us. These widgets are available from here if we want it, but at the same time, if we are working in our projects, in the 7 steps that we have to create a widget, this one, the 7 steps to create an app, that is the one that we have here, we have been saying that the step number 3 is the place where we can create our forms and is the place where actually we can customize that experience. So when I open one of the forms, one of the places where we define the information that is going to be displayed, widgets are going to be also available under the Control tab. And in the Control tab, I am going to have always this option down here that is Widget Exchange. When I just jump into my Widget Exchange option, I am going to see all the available widgets that I have for me. So I have it here different categories, how I am going to see or what are the available charts that I have to display here. How are the widgets that we have available to connect with different peripheral devices? And once that I identify one widget that I want to use in my project, let's suppose that I want to use here the Google Maps one, I can get into that one, I can review all the information, I will have always some screenshots to see how it's going to look like, right? And then I can just click on the install option. I accept the terms and conditions, click on install, and that's it. With simple clicks, my widget will be added into my project. It's going to be automatically available for me to use it when I need it. And the last step that I will have to do if I want to actually add it into my project, it's I will be seeing here the maps category. I have it here, and then I can just drag and drop as any other Bizagi control that we have to display the information when we want. So if you see here, I have simple configuration and simple data that we have here. Now, in the example that I was showing you, what I want to use is the pie chart widget. The pie chart widget, I already have it downloaded into my project. It's this one. I can drag and drop. I am going to show you how it's going to look like if it is by default empty, right? So no title, no subtitle, no elements. And then I can select it, right? And I can do the basic configuration on the left side. In my example, I already have that configuration done. And what I have to define for this particular widget is from where I am reading the information, which is the values that I am using to display these names of the category, which is the attribute that I am going to use to paint my pie chart. I can define basic attributes as a title, a subtitle, if I want to show the legend or not. And then what it is going to happen is that when we are in the execution of my process and the end user gets into that point, now instead of showing a simple table that yes, it's fine, it's showing the information that we have in the process is okay. I am not saying that it's not okay, but from an end user perspective, experience is much better and much more intuitive to maybe display this graphic. Why? Because through this graphic, I can even identify easily if maybe we are getting, I don't know, some conditions that are not being met in this. Suppose that there any business condition or by any restriction, if you are having a multiple loan application, one of the loans cannot be or cannot represent more than the 60% of the application. Here, take a look that with this simple graphic, we can identify that the consumer loan is actually taking 83%. So it's a lot. So we can say, no, definitely maybe this cannot pass. Maybe definitely this is not that I want, and can maybe take a decision and say, hey, the consumer loan is not approved, right? But if we have it in a graphic, I don't know, take a look. We will have to see, we have 10,000, 50,000 here, and say, which is the percentage, is yes, no. Maybe it will be a little bit more difficult, but we can still have a better experience with this kind of information, right? Now, what happens if at the end we want to create a new experience for one of our users? We go into the widgets exchange, we look for all the available options, and maybe the one that we're looking on is not available, right? The experience that I want to create for my user is not available. So what I can do? So automatically, I can just go directly to my widget editor. And here is we can start creating new widgets. Something really important about the widget editor is that you can create new widgets completely from scratch. If you say, I want to create a new widget, you can just give it a name. Suppose this is process professor, right? I create and start and save, and then I will start creating my widget completely from scratch. Take a look at what I was telling you during the presentation is that on the left side, I am going to have the 3 different devices where I can customize if the widget is going to look like different or if I want to see or I want to have the same behavior in all of them. So I am going to have desktop, smartphone, and tablet. And if I open one of those folders, I am going to see exactly the files that I show you in the presentation with the structure. So, which is going to be the basic JavaScript file, which is the real implementation of the JavaScript file, and which is my style sheet that I have here. By default, every time that we are creating a widget, we are going to have always these 3 basic methods, right? How the widget looks like when it's read-only, how the widget is going to look like when it's editable, and a generic control. So if you see, by default, the read-only and the editable will always go and use the generic control. But we can customize that and we can say, no, I want a completely different behavior when it's read-only, when it is editable here. And I can just have all the configuration to execute my widget here, right? I was telling you also that when we are creating our widgets, the widget editor has something amazing and is that allow us to go and see exactly how the widget is going to look like once that we have it completed. So if I click here on run, the widget is going to automatically take the information that I have here. In this case, I don't have anything at all, but on the right side, I am going to be able to see how the widget is going to look like or is going to be displayed in a desktop, how it's going to look like in a tablet, and how it's going to look like in a smartphone. And even I can see or customize the behavior if the phone it's in a vertical way or if it is in a portrait way or in a landscape mode, right? So we can do all the construction of our widgets here. However, I was telling you, my advice is never start from scratch, right? If you want to start creating a new widget, try to see if there is a starting point that you can use to actually create your widget. And one of the first starting points that you can use is actually the widget exchange. So if you want to display the information in a different way, try to see if within the widget exchange, there is already one widget that can help you to get a similar behavior because that can be your starting point. Let me just show you one example. Imagine that here we want to display or we want to add into one of our projects something that is this progress circle, right? I don't know, for me or for the project where I'm working, it is really important to show progress circles in our. However, this is not exactly in the way on how I want. But what I can do is I can download that widget from this point. I can accept terms and conditions and then download it. When I use or when I download one of my widgets directly from the widget exchange, what I am doing is that I am downloading a file that will have as an extension the BWG widget, Bizagi widget at the end, right? And what it is important is that once that I have these BWG files, I can go to my editor and I can open existing widgets. So here I can say, I just want to use this static circle that I just downloaded. And here I can just see how the implementation is going to look like. Why? Because this is something that is already being implemented. So it means my JavaScript file, it's done, and even my style sheet, it's done too, right? The CSS file is complete. And then I can understand in much more detail what I am doing here, right? Which are the methods that are being used, what kind of, I don't know, configurations do I have to do here, and take a look that when I run this widget, again, I am going to be able to see how this is going to look like, what information I am going to have it here. And I was showing you, or I was telling you in the presentation that even we can have multiple scenarios to see how that widget looks like in multiple, let's say, scenarios. This is a perfect example because I can click on my tools option here and take a look that this widget by default has multiple scenarios. One scenario that, for example, allow me to see how the widget looks like if the color that I select is red. So if I run that scenario, I will see it like this. And what happens if it's brown? And what happens if it is yellow? I am able to see how the widget behaves in different scenarios with different variance here. And even I can change it. Take a look that by default, all of them are being changed, or all of them are being displayed with a 90%. Here, I can select the parameter and say that I just want to have a 50% of completion of the widget, run it again, and then I am going to have the information that I got there. So I can run multiple scenarios, take one of the existing widgets, understand in detail the coding that I have here, modify if it required, and once that you just got all of them ready, you can download it from here. It will download again a BWG file, and if you want to add it to your project, one of the widgets that you create from by default, you can always go to your Bizagi Studio, select the Tools tab, and under the Tools tab, you have the Widgets option. That is the place from where you can upload new widgets that you have created, okay? Now, final scenario, and with this one, we will finish our demo. What it will happen if you want to create a new widget, you already look for all the available widgets that we have in the widget exchange. You cannot find one that is similar. So you decide that you have to start working or creating one from scratch. Before starting implementing all the code, please go to the internet and look for existing JavaScript libraries or plugins that you can reuse. Why? Because at the end, this is nothing different than just JavaScript and CSS files working together. And in the internet, you will be able to find a lot of options that are almost ready to use. So if you take a look here, I just have another circle progress example, right? If I want to create it, and take a look at different ways on how I can show this one. So with percentage, with, I don't know, a number under over 100, with different colors, as a little pie chart, whatever you want. And once that you just identify which one is the one that you want to use, take a look that usually you can find which is the CSS file and even which is the jQuery one that you got it. And you can copy this information, pour it directly into your widget, in your CSS file, or in your JavaScript implementation, and then you have won a lot of time. Do you have to customize a couple things? Yeah, probably you will have to start doing some coding. You will have to start getting, I don't know, some customization over the code that is available, but at least you will not start from scratch, and you will have a lot of more already done and ready for you to do. Okay, so this is how we can use existing widgets, create new widgets, and how for end users, the experience will change a lot when you can create widgets. Believe me that when we are seeing our customers adding more and more and more widgets to their projects, that immediately increase the perception or the motivation from the employees. It is much easier for them to work there, and even we reduce a lot of errors. It's much easier to follow what is happening with the process.